everyone, how are you doing? My name is Radostina and today I have for you a nice spruce tree tutorial in Adobe Illustrator. You'll notice that during the tutorial I actually call it pine tree. That's because I wasn't quite clear on the difference. Even now I'm not entirely sure I'm using the correct term, but feel free to correct me in the comments. The tutorial turned out a little bit on the longer side, even though what we're doing is actually pretty simple. I wanted to make sure that it would be easy to follow for even the complete beginners, so I went very quickly and tried to explain everything as thorough as possible. I will put some shortcuts in the description if you want to skip some of the talking. But anyway, I hope it will be easy for all of you to follow and understand what I'm talking about, and let me know what you think. I have only made few tutorials before and I don't think they turned out very good, so I'm trying to improve, and your feedback is very welcome. Also, let me know if you want to see more tutorials. I actually plan on a mini-series showing you how to make a nice and simple vector background or landscape illustration. And I think this will be very fun and easy to do, so make sure to come back for more. And yeah, I thought I'd try a new schedule where I will post the more casual and random stuff on Sunday, if there is anything to post. And I will post the more useful and practical stuff like tutorials on Tuesday. See if that works out. Oh, also, if you follow this tutorial and make something, I would really like to see it, so be sure to tag me on Instagram at forindet so I can come and see what you've created. Anyway, I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I think that was everything I wanted to tell you right now. Let's just get to the tutorial.
I think that a good way to start would be to actually study a pine tree. And we're going to look at some images on Google. You might think that you don't need to do that because you know how a pine tree looks like, and I used to think so too, but then I discovered that I was actually wrong. I used to draw pine trees sort of like this one, you know, the way kids do it, or the way you see it in simple illustrations, and there is nothing wrong with that. It does look like a pine tree or a Christmas tree, or I'm not sure what's the exact word for this sort of tree, but you get the idea. So basically, my mistake here was that I would draw the branches pointing down, going downwards, while if you look at an actual tree, you would notice that the branches are actually going up. And when I discovered that, or more like when it was pointed out to me, because I didn't see it on my own, it blew my mind a little bit. What are we going to do today? It's going to be a very simple representation of this sort of tree. It's going to be way less realistic than, well, a photograph or drawing like these ones or these ones, but it's going to be way more realistic than this right here. So what do we need to notice about those trees? Very triangular shape. We're going to use that. We notice that the branches are pointing up. We're going to use that too, and that's basically it. Those are the probably most distinctive features of this tree, and it's going to be quite enough for us to make a tree that will be recognizable as a pine tree when we use it in our landscape later on. So let's get started. I'm going to go into Illustrator. That's my trees file. It's a bit of a mess here. I've created a new document, and it's a web document with dimensions 500 pixels by 500 pixels. The size doesn't really matter that much, but if you want to stay close, that's what I'm starting with. I'm going to choose black for the stroke, and then we're going to draw a triangle. To do that, we're gonna come here in the rectangle tool and go down to the star tool. We're going to choose the star tool and just click somewhere. Now, these are the dimensions of the shape that we're going to get. If we leave it at 5 points, then we're going to get a 5 pointing stars, but that's not what we need. We need a triangle, so we're going to choose 3 for a triangle and hit OK. We got a triangle, but it's pointing down, so we're going to select it with the selection tool, or you can hit V on your keyboard, and we're going to hold down Shift and just turn it. So this way it's pointing up and it's getting a bit closer to the shape that we need. Next, we're going to drag it down. We're not holding anything on the keyboard, just dragging down. We're gonna get this long, thin, pointy triangle. And it's already looking a little bit like a pine tree. Which one will be our model? Yeah, let's go for this one. So we are getting close. We're going to make it a bit more wide. So we are selecting it again with the selection tool, and we're going to drag a little bit to the side to where we think it's the dimension we want. I think this is good. We're going to go for this. So now we are going to give it a trunk. We're going to use the line segment tool. We're going to start from this point on the top and drag all the way down. We're going to hold down Shift so the line is straight. And we're going to release. There it is. Then we're going to select that line again, and we're going to give it a bit more of a trunk shape, or a little more dimension. We're going to go up here in the width profile and select this triangular one. You can't really see it, but right now the thick part is on top and we need it to be on the bottom. But for you to see this better, we're going to make the stroke thicker. Let's go for 10. So yeah, this is not what we want. So we come here in the stroke panel and we reverse the direction of this profile. There. Now it's more like a stalk. I'm going to make it even more thick to, let's say, 20. Okay, good. So let's give it a little more realism. So we're going to create those gaps here and there. So we're going to draw the negative space or the gaps right now, because that will help us imagine the branches and it will make the tree look more realistic. To do that, we're going to get again the line tool and we're going to draw little strokes that go at a slope like this, and we're going to just randomly make a few of those. Doesn't matter where exactly, just here and there. So we make some closer, some at a longer distance, trying to be a little random, and we'll leave it at that. Then we want all these lines that we just drew to be selected, but to make it easier, we select everything, and then holding down Shift, we can unselect or sort of select again things that we don't want, and we are left with all those lines that we actually do want selected. And again, we're going to give them a profile, the same one, the triangle. Let's make it thicker so we see what we are doing. Yeah, that's right, that's what we want. We want the thicker part of the line to be outside, hanging out, and the pointy end to point towards the trunk. Let's make those thicker. And now I actually can see that we should have made them a little closer to the trunk. So let's just manually move them. Now we want to vary the thickness of those a little bit so it doesn't look so uniform. I'm going to select some of those longer ones. Yeah, I'm going to make them even thicker, and some of the smaller ones and make those thinner. We can make each and every one different thickness if we want, doesn't matter. But now what we're gonna do is, again, we want to select just those lines that we just drew, those triangles, and we're going to go to Object, Path, and Outline Stroke. So now these are shapes and not strokes. Why do we want that? I'll show you. We're going to hold down Shift and select this big triangle, which is our pine tree. So now that we have all of these selected, basically the only thing that's not selected is our trunk. And then we're going to come down here in the Pathfinder and choose this shape, which is minus front, and click it, and this cuts out all those shapes that were sticking out of the base shape. And now if we select this base shape, and we can either come down here and and click this. So we turn the stroke into fill color, so this shape is filled. Or we can use Shift and X on the keyboard to do the same thing. Our tree is pretty much done, but let's play a little longer with it so it looks even better, shall we? Let's maybe start by giving it a color. Now my colors are here. Usually for you they'll be somewhere here, but for me I find it more comfortable to have them on this side, and normally I have a bigger screen. It doesn't really matter. I like to delete all the colors that are here in the swatches because I usually work with my own colors. I don't like those that you get when you create a new document, so that's why this is empty, but for you there will be some colors there. And I usually actually like to find colors in the Adobe color themes panel because you find the really interesting swatches here, and sometimes some of my illustrations are entirely inspired by colors I find. So look at this, this is beautiful. Let's go ahead and use it. So if we're going to change the color of this tree, we need, the fill color, we need the fill color to be selected or to be on top like this. And see, when we come here over this panel, our cursor just automatically turns into a color picker. So when we click, we just select that color. And now our tree is dark turquoise. And that's not very realistic, but I'm not really known for using realistic colors. So I like this and I'm going to go with it for the moment, and you can decide what to do. You can pick a realistic color if you prefer. Then we can do the same with the stroke, with the trunk. This is still a stroke, so we need to have the stroke on top. What should we make this one? I'm usually just happy with some kind of darker. No, that doesn't really work. Or maybe lighter, why not? Let's go with this. And you'll see that it's now behind and I actually want it to be on top, so we have it selected, and then we go for Control Shift and right square bracket, I believe that's what it's called, on the keyboard, and that brings it on top. Or you can click on it, arrange, and bring to front. Going to do the same thing, but it's quicker with the keyboard. Okay, so this is looking nice. I want this actually to be a bit thinner, like that. What can we do to make it even better? I think I don't want this to be so flat. I want to make it a bit pointing up as well. So I'm going to hit A, which will bring this, what is it called? Direct selection tool. So where we can just get it up here. And I'm going to manually bring this a little bit up. Just a little bit, yeah, something like that. So with this tool you can select each and every anchor point on its own and drag it and change the position of it however you like, without affecting any of the rest. What else can we do? We can go again for the line tool, go for stroke, and select maybe this color again. And we can add hue. Now to select only this, we can select just one of them, go up here and select same. So we can either select the same stroke color, but that will select the trunk as well, or we can select the same stroke weight, and that's only going to select those branches. We're going to give them the same triangular profile again, give them a bit of thickness, give them maybe some varying thickness by selecting them one by one and varying the stroke thickness up there. Some will be thicker, some will be thinner, because nature is quite random. We'll make this one stick a little more. Again, hitting the A, moving that anchor point a bit outside. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave this. So you can either leave it like this, or we can outline all these strokes. For the time being, I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm going to select this whole thing and go for Control and G. That will group all these objects. So see, if I'm holding just this part, the whole thing is going to move around. And that's pretty handy when you're working with a lot of objects, because otherwise, oh yeah, there's another way to do this. and it's by selecting everything together and going for a right click. And how do you do it? Oh yeah, group. And they're grouped. If you want to work with the elements inside, again, you just double click and you're inside and you can manipulate things however you like. It's very good to have objects grouped so they act like their own entity. Okay, so I think I'll call this done. Then I want to show you a bit of a variation because not all trees are going to look like this one. There's those which have a bit of branches on top, but the trunk actually is bare for, you know, a few meters off the ground. I don't really know how to explain it. Or you can see it here. They have branches on top. You can see that some of the trees are uneven, like this one, like it has some branches here and there also on top, but there's nothing on this side. It's not perfectly symmetrical. Oh yeah, let's say here. You can also see that the branches are not so densely close to each other. You can see the individual branches are up here on the top. So, you know, you can see this in nature. So if you want to go for a little more realism, even though our shape is very symbol-like, it's not realistic, but you can make it feel realistic. So let's do this. We go here into the artboard tool and we're going to make another artboard by selecting new artboard, and I'm going to move it a little to the side, have a little more space. And to make this quicker, I'm going to use the same, going to play with this one a little more. So I'm going to click on it, select it, hold Alt down and drag it into this artboard. Now let's manipulate it a little bit. We're going to work with this right now, so we can just ungroup it. And we're going to hit the minus on the keyboard, and that's going to bring the delete anchor point, of course. That's what it does. We're going to get closer, Control plus, by the way. And we're going to delete some points by clicking on them. Something like that. Then we're going to hit A on the keyboard, direct selection tool. I don't know the names of these things, I just use them. We're going to bring this one here in the middle. So we're gonna have to draw a few more of those branches. So, you know, to get this look, just to remind you what we're doing. Then we, by the way, if I'm going too slow, I'm just assuming that you don't really know anything or almost anything. I don't want to assume knowledge and then be not helpful to people who actually don't know some of the things. But I can go slower if you like. I just added a bunch of little branches. We're going to select them and again give them this profile. I'm gonna go really close now to adjust them. Gonna move this a little bit. Oh yeah, this is something that happens when you work with the web settings. There is this automatic setting here, snap to pixel, which kind of makes sense when you do web stuff, but in our case it doesn't, so I'm gonna deselect it and I'm gonna adjust this so you can't see the edges there. This one can be a little thicker. But now you can see the edge, so I'm gonna move it. By the way, I'm just moving it with the arrows on the keyboard. This one can be a bit thicker as well. This one can move a little bit. And this one can also be thicker. Yes. And what we can also do, then we'll have to delete a bunch of anchor points down here as well. So go for the minus. I'm gonna move this one a little more up. Maybe also this can go. This one, it's too slopey, I'm gonna move it a bit up. Yes, something like that. Can move this branch a little more down and draw another branch, because you will see that down here there is few branches, like dry branches that are just sticking out there, and they help with they help the eye recognize the silhouette of the tree. So I want to have them. And yeah, it's a variation of the same tree, but this time looks very different. We can also select all these branches. This time I'm going to select the same color. Oops, but I'll select this one as well. When this happens, what we can do is select this one, go down here in the layers, open the layers, and this is selected, and this blue square here indicates that this is the selected group or path or whatever, and we can lock it so that it doesn't mess with us, or we don't mess with it. And again, let's select all the same strokes, and we can change the color. So now it looks more like a silhouette. This one is a bit too sharp. I'm going to move it a little. Yes, and then we can select all of this, group it, and yeah, now we can move all of them together. We can go back and unlock this one. So now if I have somewhere a ready background, I can just drop those trees there, or I can move this one next to this one. And already, let's give this one the lighter color. I ended up giving it a stroke with this color because the stroke was on top. I'm going to reverse it and delete the stroke. So if I, for example, keep selecting this one and making subtle changes to it, or just repeat the process, it's not a very difficult process, as you see. I goes next to each other and I can make a little forest, nice and easy. This is pretty much for the tutorial. I don't think that we really need to do much more than this. I'm going to just save it. And I want to show you how I have used this in previous illustrations. See all those trees? They're made the exact same way. I've only added some highlights, the same way that I've showed you before, and you'll have a closer look. It's not going to be great because it's not a very high quality JPEG, but it doesn't matter. But these are the same trees. I make them look a little more realistic by tilting them. So if you select it and you go here to the corner, the arrow is going to turn into this double arrow, which signifies that you can rotate it a little bit like this, so it looks a little more random and foresty and realistic. And yeah, and there's a little forest up here. So this is how this was done. And I think that's where I'm going to end this tutorial. That was it for today. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if it was and if you have any questions. And if you liked it, make sure to come next week because we're going to make a different kind of tree. I think I will still stick with the pine trees because I want to show you a different technique to make them even a little bit more realistic. And eventually in the end of this mini series, I want to show you how to make a simple background image like this one. Well, this one is not that simple, but we're going to make something similar, maybe something more like this one, for example. So yeah, give it a like if you liked it. Ask me if you didn't understand anything or if you have any comments, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, have fun!